Train by day, Kyle Wigginton podcast by night, all day.
It's just how we grew up.
Yeah, I picked a horrible time to stop, get sober. And, so before I did, you'd go to the weed stores and instead of going to the man and you'd have one, maybe two kinds of weed, you go to the weed store and there's 40 varieties.
Oh, there's so many of them.
Oh my God.
I mean, I've only been to one of those.
Uh-huh.
It was a cool experience, but I don't think, do we have those here in Louisiana?
I don't know. I've been sober too long, so I just don't know. But in California, they're more prevalent than Starbucks or 7-Elevens. They're everywhere.
Tommy Sanchez with the Raffeys,
aka
Raff, my man in the house right now.
Call the governor.
Look at this back here. Raffeys. I love it when people bring things in like this. I don't even know if people can see that. It's really far away. But so go ahead and tell the people about your band. Because I mean, it's one that I've heard some of your songs, but whenever you told me your band name, I was like, why does that sound familiar? Yeah. So what year was it?
That was New Year's Eve, 80-81.
80-81.
Yeah.
Before my time.
Yeah. It goes back a while.
Yeah.
But the story is that I'll tell you the story, the whole thing of the stint with the Club Fed.
Yeah.
So I was a booking agent for a band called the Dukes here in New Orleans, and they were a really popular pop rock band. Had great audiences, lots of popularity. And this is about the time that the Zebra, the Cold, the Models, those guys, they were all playing the circuit here in New Orleans. And so I was a booking agent for these guys. And one day, the guitar player, Frank Asanto, he was the spark plug of the band. He was the main songwriter and really just the spark plug. He was the center of its energy. And anyway, Frank got busted with doing some dirty deeds, and I happened to be in the house where it happened, and the both of us got nabbed on a federal charge. And the next thing you know, we were sent to prison. The judge was kind enough to let the band play their last show on New Year's Eve of that year, and so off. We played the last gig, packed everything away. Everyone piled into a car, and we drove across Louisiana to Texas, and turned ourselves in the next morning, and at a federal institution in where is it called, Bastrop, Texas, which was then a new prison that they sold it to the community that it was going to be a minimum security prison. But in fact, everybody had their individual cells. So they were setting it up. They sold it as a minimum, but when you get your own cell, you're going to do some hard time. That's how they worked that out. So anyway, we were doing our time, and the moment one day, a few months in, I get a letter from the manager of the band. It was a Dear John from the manager saying that, hey, look, no matter what happens when you get out, you're not going to be working with the band anymore.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and that sucked because it was like my world. It was everything. I really loved the band, loved the music, and I loved being the agent. Because it's crazy when you're, it's hard to promote yourself. Nobody pays attention, but when the guy shows up, the outsider, then people pay attention when you're touting for someone else. So I get this letter from the manager, and I meet Frank at outside in the yard after dinner, and I show him the letter, and he said, "Man, that's tough." I said, "Yeah." He said, well, he looks at me and goes, you know what? He says, when we get out, you want to play music? I'm going to help you. I said, really? He goes, yeah, I'm going to help you no matter what. And I said, dude, I looked him square in the eye. I said, fat chance on that. Turned around, walked back to my cell, wrote this song called Fat Chance. And it was a breakup song. And that song ended up, it was the first song I ever wrote, I think, and it ended up on WRNO's some album, a local music thing. So it probably it counted for something. But anyway, so Frank promised, but I really did. I thought, nah, that ain't going to happen, because at some point we were going to get out. He was going to be released, and he was going to jump right back in and pick up where they left off, so the Dukes could go on, because I expected them to go on to world status, because I thought they were that great. So anyway, this day comes when I guess I had a little juice. I had a friend here in town that was his wife was connected to a congressman or something. And next thing you know, I get a transfer, and I'm going to get transferred out of that jail and go into a true minimum security prison in Florida. So I jump, write a few letters to some friends. I'm going, hey, they're going to put me on a bus. I'm going to be at the bus station on this particular night. If you can come stop and say hi, it'd be great, man. So as the day comes, I get on the bus. We stop in New Orleans, and I jump out of this bus, and there's a freaking mob of friends sitting there. And it was just great. It was just, I got to taste of some liquor that night. I hadn't had in a while. Friends were stashing cash in my pocket. They threw a gal in the bus with me to enjoy a few moments before I actually turned myself in. And so that was great. So here I was in federal penitentiary in Eglin Air Force Base, and I had a job. I got a job there as the maintenance guy. So it was great. So every day I get I get my little tablet with my little work orders, and I go knock those out really fast. And there was this room, this big garage sized room with a big bay door and a little side door. And inside was like the music room, but everything in the room was broken. The drums were broken. The guitars were broken. Everything was busted. So I would finish my little tickets and run in there and, fix the stuff little at a time. I fix a guitar, then I fix another guitar, fix the bass, fix the drums. And when it was all fixed, one day after it was all set up, after dinner, I rolled up the bay door and just got on my guitar and started plinking, doing this silly stuff I was doing then. And next thing you know, Scotty, some cop that was in jail, he shows up, gets behind the drums. Then this guy, I forget his name, he's the Puerto Rican, he's the bass player. He jumps on bass. He's got the bass licks. And then this blonde-haired cocaine dealer, blonde-haired guy from Florida, he jumps on the second guitar. And so now we're banging out songs every night, crafting some tunes. Well, one day the warden comes up to me and goes, hey, I've got the Hells Angels coming into the facility on this date about 3 weeks from now. And would you like to play? And I said, sure. Sure. He said, what are you going to call yourselves? And I'm thinking I'm going, the Chain Gang.
That's a good name.
So great. So in my little duties during the day, I snuck into the kitchen. I stole some kitchen uniforms, and I took them back to the room and banded them with masking tape, banded them, striped them out, spray painted over the open spots, took the tape off, and now I had striped suits. Mm-hmm. So now we had our uniforms, the uniform thing. And so,
yeah, no, that's we should tell that too after the story. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we're here we are banging out these songs, rehearsing. And then one day the bass player comes up to me at lunchtime and he goes, hey, dude, I just want to let you know I'm not playing in the band anymore. I said, bro, you got to play. We got a gig in like 7 days. He goes, oh, screw you. I don't care. I don't want to play. So he walks away. I'm going, oh, I'm screwed.
What was his issue?
He just didn't want to play. It's convicts, man. They're brilliant minds if they only would channel them correctly.
Right.
So I leave the cafeteria. I'm walking across the compound, and who do I see? Frank. Frank just got the same transfer, and he just got off the bus. He literally just got off the bus, and he's walking to his dorm. And I said, Frank, bro, it's great to see you. It's all good. I said, guess what? We're playing in a week, and you're playing bass. So it's great. So we bang out these, we work out the tunes. We do our show, and shortly thereafter, it wasn't too long after that, I get released. I'm going to be on parole, and so I end up here in New Orleans, and I get a job at the zoo. My job was great. They'd give me a can of Freon, a spatula, and a bag. And I'd walk around, and wherever people would have stepped and put their gum on and left it on the cement stuck, I'd freeze it with the Freon, pop it with the little spatula, and throw it in the bag. And that was my job. It's crazy. Coldest winter I spent ever in my life. So I'm in the halfway house for, I don't know, a month or so. And who pops up? Frank, he's got his release too. Said, great. Oh, that's fantastic. So what's going to happen with the band? He goes, I don't know. He says, what are we doing next? I go, what? He goes, bro, I told you I was going to help you. So I'm going to help you. Let's do this. I couldn't believe it because he was such a great, he was probably the greatest musician I ever played with because he's such a natural. And so we get together with this drummer, a guy that used to hang at the bars. And next thing you know, we got this 3-piece. And what we were going to call ourselves? One day we just said, hey, let's call ourselves the Raffeys. You be Riff, I'll be Raff, there'll be Rasta, there'll be Ruben, all these R surnames. Mm-hmm. So at this point, Frank's cousin Mike Assunta, which was also the lead singer from the Dukes, now he's on board. So now we got a 4-piece and we're playing around town and it's all great. Things are rolling. And then, it's the band thing. One guy walks in while the other guy the other guy band member screwing his girlfriend. And so, all the emotion and all that. So the band breaks up over that. Women, that's how it works. You gals. So I get together with, it breaks up. So I get together with some other guys, keep the name the Raffeys, and we put together some songs. And one day, Arak, the other singer in the band and songwriter, we say, let's make a record. So we start putting together a record. And if anybody knows here in town, there was a guy named Richard Bird. He passed recently, but he was just a great sound guy. And so we have our little Raffey World headquarters, which was on Oak Street, right down the street from Snake and Jake's. Is that what it's called? Snake and Jake's? Mm-hmm. And Chopsy's, which was the little corner bar, which hopefully will be the new neutral ground in the future here. They're negotiating that. Anyway, we take our first photo session right in front of Chopsy's, with the sign behind us. It was such a great name. We do our first photo session there, and then we end up making a record. This record that's just behind you is called Eep Snorpsh Now. And the great thing about that was there's some songs that I wrote way back then. One of them, I just finished reading George Orwell's 1984, and I wrote a song called Big Brother, which talks about that censorship, canceling out people, all that. And it was pretty pertinent. It was pertinent then to me. And funny, here it is decades later, very pertinent now. So that song gets a lot of legs when I play it here in town. Even when I play it, whether I play it unplugged or on Wednesday nights, I'll play with the pieces of part of Jedi Mind Trick, which is a great band here in town. They're a great cover band, do very, very, I don't know if they call it complicated, but very, very precise covers that they do really well. So a piece of that band, Amy Nemenich, the bass player, she plays with me. George Nere, aka Creature, he plays on drums. Amy's dad, Dave Nemo, he plays on bongos.
Where do you guys play at?
We play it at the Spotlight on Wednesday nights.
Okay,
cool. One of the open night mics that play around town.
And let me tell you what's terrifying about that. The Big Brother song is that you said it was relative back then,
yes,
and it's also relative today. So you think it's getting worse, or do you think we're still dealing with the same problem?
Oh, are you kidding? Back then I was writing about the book. Yeah. Today it's about reality. Right. It truly is about reality. I think Orwell had it down, as he wrote it. The government, Big Brother, was controlling people through pain and shame. They would shame you, or through pain you would suffer to control you. Huxley, with Brave New World, did it with pleasure. Pleasure and distractions would do it. Same difference. Mm-hmm. Maybe you're not paying attention to what's going on with you in your world, because in the meantime, it's really important to know, the Pelicans playing tonight, or did the Saints win, or did they lose? Or who gives a rip? It's important. So it distracts you. Mm-hmm. What are the Kardashians doing today? I don't know. I don't care. But some people really, that's their life. So yeah. So it's the distraction that keeps your eye off the ball. So before we leave, the band's going to go west. We're going to pack up and go west, go to California, and go to Hollywood. And I take off. I take a bunch of records with me, albums. And I go to New York, and I go and pump them up there. And this thing happened. Oh, yeah, I had to tell. This is before we left. Here in New Orleans, one of the, I don't know, some business association, I don't know what they call it. They had a music business seminar at the ITM, I think it's the ITM building, the big building at the end of Canal Street. And so they're going to have this music seminar. And so we put together this little stunt where, okay, my dad's a printer. I had him print up a case full of, I don't know, 5,000 sheets of these big 11 by 8.5 sheets that said, "Can you say Eep Snorpsh Now?" Now, if you're around New Orleans, there was a time when every telephone pole in this town had that on the telephone pole. Can you say Eep Snorpsh Now? Well. So, because odd, it's an odd name for an album.
Yeah. What is that? What is that?
Well, I can't tell you.
Okay,
It's a well held secret so far. None of the band members have revealed it. But it's apropos. So it's a good translation. Anyway, so we put together this plan. We put the band on a flatbed truck. We set it all up with the PA and everything, and set it up so we could do that. Then I had, I think, one of my sisters dressed like a what do you call it? An Arabian, what do you call it? A belly dancer. Yeah, she had a belly dance outfit on. And so it was so perfect because it was just timed perfectly. At the ITM, I guess that's a Hilton or whatever, the Marriott, there's a big atrium. It's wide open. That goes way up, goes up to the height of the hotel. Well, there's a guest speaker, and she says, this lady, I think she was the head of A&M at the time, or I forget which label. She said, "Okay, here in New Orleans, if you got to make it in music, you got to promote yourself. You just have to promote yourself because there's a million bands and they all get kind of like buried in the herd, so you just got to promote yourself." Just as she said that, one of my other sisters screams from the back of the room at the top of her lungs. Everyone turns around. My other sister's belly dancing with this big silver platter with a bunch of demo tapes in a nice parsley, nice parsley plate, and she dances up to the front and she presents them to all the members of this panel, and they each take a demo tape, and then she dances out of there. Well, that's great. They all laugh. It's a big funny thing, and then they break for lunch. And then just as they break for lunch, as they're walking through this atrium, those 5,000 sheets of Can You Say Eep Snorpsh Now get dumped from the top floor of this atrium. And the next thing you know, there's these thousands of leaflets floating, landing in people's soup at their dinner, at their lunch table. So that was great. Nice little promo stunt. Then they walk out of the building, and right outside, we're sitting there with the band, and we just bang out a bunch of tunes. Mm-hmm. So we finished that, drive away, and that was our stunt. So we did that. So here we are back at Raffey World headquarters, and ARAC says, we should go to Hollywood and we should change the Hollywood sign. And I looked at him and says, "You're nuts." Yeah, but maybe. And so I end up going to New York, pumping the record. A couple of guys, they go west. The bass player, Trek Richardson, and Mutzi, the drummer, they're staying back. They're going to wait, and they're going to come after we kind of like get ourselves settled in. So I get to California, and we're literally, I thought the plan was, I think if everyone brought $400 or $500 a piece on our own money, that we could pool that money together and get a place. I'm thinking rent a house in California. Mm-hmm. Yeah, good luck with that. So we get to Venice Beach, and the best we could do is this little 1-room apartment right on Pacific Avenue, right a block from the beach. And so I put down all the money I got. Max Arak, he puts his money down, but we don't have enough to get in the place. So we're just living on the beach, sleeping on the beach and taking these cold showers, at Venice Beach every morning. And so meantime, I get this little job at some little basket factory, and I'm trying to generate some cash and waiting for these guys to get to California. Well, Trek and Mutzi, they show up, and they took their time to get across America. They stopped into hotels and motels. They had a nice time getting here. So by the time they got to California, they were busted. They were broke. Oh, God, I was so furious because that really killed the plan. So somehow we managed to get into this apartment. So there's this little apartment where there's 6 guys with our little bedrolls, all laid on in a row. At least we had a bathroom. At least we had, a kitchen. So we do that. So then Max says, okay, let's do this Hollywood sign thing. I'm going, really? Is that even possible? Because if you know what the Hollywood sign is, it's huge. Those letters are massive.
Yeah.
You can see them from miles and miles away because they're so massive. You don't even have an idea how big they are in scale. Each one is like 40, 45 feet tall. That's like a 3-story building. And so, well, you heard it on the podcast, but I'll just kind of
go for it, dude.
I'll repeat.
No one else has heard it. Yeah, go for it.
So I'm working at the
It's a great story.
Yeah, I'm working at the Cheesecake Factory, and first we had to accumulate. You had to accumulate. Get the sheets. Because it took bed sheets. This is not the kind of thing you can't spray paint. That's totally insignificant. All the bottom of the letters of the Hollywood sign have all kinds of graffiti sprayed on them. But you can't see it because it's so puny, insignificant that from the distance it just gets swallowed up by the white of the letters. So it's going to take a lot of space. So it's going to take sheets, hundreds or 160 anyway. And so first the idea was, go knock door to door and tell people that I was pledging for a fraternity, and do they have any spare sheets? Well, that got me 2 or 3, and they were colored, they were fitted or something. It wasn't working. That plan wasn't working. So one day, Max grabs a car and he goes to the Holiday Inn close to the beach, and he scours the different floors, and he finds the mother lode. He finds a linen closet that was unlocked, and so he had a bunch of suitcases, one packed into another. So it didn't look like he had much walking in, but now he's packing these things full of sheets, and at some point, he's got all the sheets, thinks he's got all that he needs. And so he starts trying to roll out of there, with all this stuff. And some bellhop comes up and asks him, "Hey, sir, can I help you with those?" And he's like, a pooping bricks, because he's thinking this is a felony, because this is not a couple $100 worth of creative borrowing, if you want to call it that. And so they managed to get all the stuff in the car and they zip off. So now we got the sheets. And so Max, should I say Arak, change his name. Arak borrows a Singer sewing machine from some unbeknownst poor gal. She didn't know what she was doing there. She loaned him his sewing machine, and he starts sewing. Well, at some point, first we drive up to the Hollywood sign, and there's a service road that you go up in the Hollywood Hills, but there's this one particular road that gets you to this locked gate. That beyond the gate is a service road that gets you up to the top of I think it's Mount Wilson, and on top of that mountain is a communication tower, and just below the top of that mountain sits all the letters from the Hollywood sign. So we jump the fence and take the road, and we get down to the Hollywood sign and start measuring it out. And man, once you get up to these things, you realize these letters are freaking huge. It's really, to me, it was really overwhelming. So I'm overwhelmed, thinking, oh, this is nuts. This is crazy. So I'm not that big of the idea guy. I'm more of the finisher in the band. And so I'm sitting on the side of the mountain, staring out at the Hollywood, staring out at Hollywood in the city. And Max comes down. He knows I'm bummed out, and he comes and sits next to me, and he says, "Pretty overwhelming." I go, "Yep." So you probably think we're not going to do this. I said, kind of, yeah. He goes, look behind you. And I look behind me, and there's Willard, our sound guy, and his brother Trek, the bass player. They're sitting there. These are a couple of brothers, man, and they're sitting there taping, measuring this thing out. And I'm going, damn. These guys are they're measuring this thing. We're really going to do this. So I said, okay, I guess we're going to roll with this. So we get all the measurements. So now it's all graphed out on graph paper. And now the journey begins. So now Arak is starting to sew. And in this little tiny apartment, there's sheets freaking everywhere. It's like, so you walk in, it's just sheets laying everywhere. And he's sitting there with his sewing machine. And we're like a couple of days off of New Year's Eve. And we knew that we had to do this on New Year's Eve. And you know why?
You said the helicopters, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Because in Los Angeles, the police helicopters, they don't fly on New Year's Eve and they don't fly on 4th of July. And if you can imagine why, New Year's Eve, everybody's all tanked up with their juice, and it's New Year's Eve. They start shooting guns. And what are you going to do?
Yeah. You see fireworks, but guns. Yeah.
Yeah. You're shooting guns. You see a helicopter. You're drunk. You think you're anonymous. So you start taking pot shots at the helicopter. So the cops got wise to that, and they just ground their helicopters on New Year's Eve. So somehow I knew that. And so, we're going to do this New Year's Eve. So I'm working at that time. I'm working at the Cheesecake Factory in the Marina Del Rey, and I've got this. I'm working on this shift, and I get this phone call from Arak. He goes, Raff, said, I'm burnt out, bro. I'm out of steam. I got way too much to do here, and I'm just pooped, man. Can you help me out? Wink, wink. In other words, I guess he's asking me, do I have any blow? And I said, well, Max, if you go in the bathroom, you go in the second drawer, there's a sock, some socks, the green sock in the back. I said, there's a bindle in there. He goes, great. And just as I said that, I said, but it's not Coke. And he hung up the phone. Oh, so he finds this bindle. He thinks it's blow. He thinks it's Coke. He lays it out, and he just does the whole bindle. And it was meth. It was crystal meth. So now Arak's lit. He's lit up. And now he's like on this sewing machine. He's like at it. And at some point he was at it so much that the sewing machine broke. Some part inside of it broke. He was so hyped. He was so strung on this crystal that he actually took this thing apart. We jumped in the car, found this broken part, ran across town to Culver City, found a Singer, sewing machine shop, found the part, which is crazy, brought the part back, and miraculously he put the sewing machine back together again. Anybody's ever done those kind of party favors know you can take things apart, but you can't really put them back together again. Mm-hmm. The fun is the disassembly, not the reassembly. So he puts the sewing machine back together again, and he finishes it. So now it's New Year's Eve, all ready to go. Everybody, there's with all these sheets, everyone's got this big bundle of sheets that they got to bring. They pack them in the car and then walk up these big bundles up the road and then drop down to the sign. So they take off. And that night, again, I was working at the Oyster Bar at the Cheesecake Factory, which I got that job by, telling them a fib. I told them I worked at Felix's in New Orleans, and they gave me the job. So I learned how to shuck oysters on the fly. And now I do that pretty well. Thankfully, my son loves that too. And so I'm working the Cheesecake Factory, and I'm working that shift, and it's New Year's Eve. So it's a really busy night. I can't leave till it's done, and I cleaned up my station. I'm gone. So by the time the car comes to get me, it's probably, 1:00 at night. It's into the nighttime. And we get in the car, fly across town, get up to the Hollywood Hills. And this guy that drove me was this guy, Ted, this older guy that was sort of like our interim manager. Yeah, Ted had this old Cadillac, what do you call it? Hearst, that had a camper placed on the back of it. They cut it out and it had a camper on it. So we would used to hang out while the cold winds of November were blowing it through Venice Beach. That's where we stayed to huddle in and stay warm before we could get into this apartment. So anyway, Ted was the guy that picked me up, and Ted was an older guy, and Ted smoked a lot, smoked heavy. So I start going up this road with Ted, and about halfway up the road, I hear him panting really heavy, and he goes, Raff, my heart's palpitating. I don't know if I'm going to make it. I'll never forget the words I told him. I said, Ted, I love you, brother, but if you die, I'm going to have to leave you here because we're going to get this thing done. So he doesn't die. We get up to the communication tower, and we drop down, we skirt down to the sign, and I get there, and there's plenty of work had been done on the sign. A few letters had gotten done, but there was plenty that hadn't gotten done. So we're sitting there working. And I realize I'm looking at the clock. I'm going, oh Lord, we really only have a couple of hours of nighttime darkness left. So I said, guys, we got to really start humping, really get rolling. So now we're moving faster. And of course, we're trying to be quiet because there's a communication tower close by. But probably the person inside the tower, it's always manned by somebody. They're probably not expecting to hear anything going on outside that place ever, because nothing ever happens there ever. So here we are working. And the one thing that I that invested in, because we were all broke, we could barely feed ourselves. I'd gone to one of these Big Five outdoor shops and bought a couple of these mountain climbing harnesses. So that when I would get on top of each letter, and Arak would get on the top, we would both be tethered with a 3-4 foot strap tethered to the top of the letters.
It's a smart investment.
Yeah, real good investment. Because at some point, there's one letter, I think it's the Y, the W had to get covered with a Y. And so it wasn't a thing where the letter was going to be, a piece was going to get a bit altered or something. It was going to be, the whole letter was going to be completely covered by a whole giant sheet. And so we start pulling this up, and I don't know if anyone's been in the Boy Scouts. There's a thing called a granny knot versus a square knot. Just so when you're tying a knot, you might inadvertently tie a granny instead of a square. They slip. And so I'm pulling up, we're pulling up this big, the Y, and pulling up this letter. Arak's on one end, I'm on the other, and we're pulling it up, and it's big. And at that moment, it's starting to get, it's as it gets earlier, closer to daylight, the change in weather starts. This wind starts coming over Mount Wilson, and this wind just comes over the top of the mountain and fills this letter like a big spinnaker from a sail, and it just fills it up. And so now we're fighting with this thing, and there's so much tension from the wind that my stupid little the knot that got tied down below slips. And don't you know, man, back I fall, and that little strap with the little tether saved my butt, because there I was dangling 45 feet off the ground with my little tether hanging me. So it was great investment. It worked. Yeah, good investment. So then I take out a knife and I start running along. There's some platforms every 6 feet on the letter, and I'm running along these platforms and cutting big slits in the letter so that the wind would pass through, and that fixed it. That fixed it, so we were able to tie up the letter and get it done. So then we're getting close. We got Raffeys. We still have the O and the D from Hollywood. The O and the D are still existing. They haven't been altered. Now we were going to alter those to change them into 4 exclamation marks. Each letter we get 2 exclamation marks. Chop it up a little bit, and we get that. But it was too late. Now the sun was coming up, and we weren't going to be able to do it. The cops would show up by then. We could be seen from the whole city. So we just had to get off the mountain. And now I'm irritated because I'm a finisher, and I don't like the idea of not finishing. So I'm really, really irritated about that. It's like mission failed. It was a fail. And so Arak comes up to me and goes, look at the word Raffeysod. It's like turf. It's like dirt. He says, get it? Raffeysod. Hollywood, it's our turf. And I said, hey, you're right. I said, good deal. All right. Mission accomplished. So we skirt off the mountain. Great. We get back in the car, take a couple of shots, a couple of little snapshots, and get back to Venice. And so we had this thing that we did. We practiced it here in New Orleans. before we left. Well, I wanted the young crowd. I didn't care about people our age. They would just go to bars and hang out with the friends and kind of casually check out bands. But the younger crowd, the 12, 13, 14, they were totally into the music. They were into, they'd be into the band. They'd be into the merchandise. They'd buy your records. They were into it. They know the words to the songs. That was part of success. So, I had this plan, and we called it SWAT Rock, where we would over there on Oak Street, we would practice where we would, with a stopwatch, we go, okay, ready, set, go, click the stopwatch, and we'd start setting up a minor PA system and see how fast we could set it up. And so once we had it down that we could do it to like 11, 12 minutes, we could do it really fast. We knew we could do it. So now let's see, I know we did this at, I think I call it Bonneville High School. I know we did it there. We pulled up to Bonneville High School. This is before, I guess, the crazy idiots with the big pharma driving the shooters. So you could walk into a school, and so we pull up to the school. We go into a hallway. I'd already scoped it out. We knew where the electricity was. We set up the band really quick, plug into the juice, right, and we had a time, so we would plug in, ready to play just as the class broke. Some teacher walks up and goes, "What are you guys doing?" We had this thing, it was so perfect. We had this, what looked like a bona fide letter from the school board, said, "Hey, we're supposed to play here." We show them this bogus contract. And while they're sitting there scratching their heads, the bell rings, kids come out in the hallway, and we're banging out 3 songs. So we do our 3 songs, throw everything in the back of the truck and haul ass, and we're out of there before anybody knows what. Mm-hmm. So we thought when we here in California that we could do the same thing. So over on Venice Beach, there's you can busker in Venice Beach, busk, I think they call it. Yeah,
Busking,
busk. Yeah, you could busk, but you can't set up a live PA. Mm. Well, we knew this nice guy that had a nice coffee shop. He liked us. He liked the band. So he gave us a wink and said, you can plug into my juice. And so great. So we do this thing. We do our little SWAT Rock. We set up the PA. This is the day after we changed the Hollywood sign. And this is only in Hollywood. This can happen. We set up, we start playing. Now we're playing with a full PA system, banging out tunes. And the cops show up, of course. And instead of arresting us, which is what we wanted to take the publicity further. Once they found out that we were the guys that just changed the Hollywood sign, instead of arresting us, they were all shaking our hands. They thought it was a slick move. And it was slick because it took a lot of coordinated effort. So we did that. And, I can tell these days, and I tell that story at a party or something, someone, I changed the Hollywood sign. I can tell by the look in their eyes that they think I'm totally full of baloney.
If you would have told me that and I didn't know the story, I would have thought the same thing.
Yep. That's true.
It's awesome that you did it. I don't know if people today have the balls to do this kind of thing. So I think it's amazing that you guys are doing things like that.
Yeah, I agree. And so we did that. And then one day, this is years later, I'm at a party up in the Hollywood Hills, and there's this one little A-frame house. It's the last house that's like directly underneath the sign. And it just happened to be people that I did turn out to be good friends. You know how parties show up that you end up in the parties, you end up in the kitchen, standing around drinking, mm-hmm. Party favors and all that. While I was sitting there in the kitchen, the host of the party is standing next to me, and on his refrigerator is a bunch of pictures of the Hollywood sign, these different renditions. There's Hollyweed, there's Go Navy, there's like UCLA. And he's sitting there talking about this guy, Jeff, this great tech dude. He's sitting there. Yeah, I since it's on signs right there, it really interests me. But he goes, but this one right here, this Raffeysod, I just don't know what to make of that. And I just elbow him and go, bro, ask me anything you want. I'll tell you the whole thing.
He didn't know it was you?
No, he didn't know any of that.
Oh my goodness.
So we became great friends, and that was good. This guy, he was a great, computer whiz, and his wife was a fantastic artist. And they did what was the original, what was it called? Like the Max Headroom. Before Max Headroom, this whole idea of these digitized faces that could talk. They did the first version of that by the gal, making these sculptures of faces and him digitizing it. And, so they were very cutting edge folks that did lots of great stuff in the movies afterwards. So, okay. So now we did the Hollywood sign, and now I have a job at the studio. This studio it's one of the better studios in Hollywood. It's called Westlake Audio, Westlake Studios.
The Hollywood sign led into that?
No, I'd had a job. I'd just gotten a job. I was at a party one night. I knew that that I wanted to record music. Mm-hmm. What I didn't understand was how much it cost to record music. Yeah, because here in town, I sat in for one of the Duke sessions, and those digital clocks that they're just lights. There's little red lights, and as it ticks off, the lights go out. And when it gets all the way around, the lights go out and it gets all red again. I thought if you were paying $120 an hour to record music, that when the engineer hit record, that little clock would start, and when he stopped, the clock would stop. I had no idea. I was so naive. I didn't know that whether you were smoking joints or practicing or tying your shoes, the clock was ticking in studio. So I realized that if I wanted to record any music in Hollywood, I was either going to have to come up with some kind of record deal or work at a studio. So one night I'm with a girlfriend, and we're at this party, and it's on Santa Monica Boulevard, and she meets some girl, and she introduced me to this girl, and this girl says, "Yeah, I work at Westlake Audio." I didn't know anything about the names of the studios or anything. So really, and she goes, "Yeah, and I think they're looking for somebody." So I got the name of the studio manager. Jotted her name down and went home. That was a Saturday night. The next morning I woke up, looked up this lady's name in the phone book, realized that she wasn't that far from where I was living. Got her address, put on a tuxedo with my pink high tops, went and got a dozen roses, and went banging on this woman's door. And she liked her drink too. She opens her door all hungover and go, "Hi, Judy." I say, "My name's Raff, and I hear you got a job for me." And I stick these roses in her hand. And so I got this job at the studio. And so the great thing that in Los Angeles, anyway, a lot of people are imported. Everyone comes from all over the place. So at the studio business, anytime from Thanksgiving all the way through New Year's, most of the band, all the record projects have done their record projects. Most of the budgets are all done. So there's not that much activity in these studios because everyone's going home. And so between Thanksgiving and New Year's Eve, for years after that, I was able to get, it's always aspiring engineers that wanted to be first engineers. They were always ready and willing if you could put a roll of tape up and we could record. So I ended up recording a lot of music in bits, doing those seasons, and managed to knock out a bunch of songs. So I got to record in some great studios, and that was a lot of fun. And I turned that in, I ended up working at that studio for years. And so I made a career out of that. So, where does that put us there? So,
well, did you ever get in any trouble over the Hollywood sign?
No. Amazingly, there was a few articles done about it in the paper, a couple of times in California. There's this guy named Huell Hauser, and Huell Hauser is a guy from Tennessee that had a really thick Tennessee accent. That he wanted to be in the movie business. He wanted to act, but his accent was just so thick that he ended up being, what do they call that? bit actors, or he couldn't go mainstream. So he decided to do a show and started putting it on public TV called California Gold by Huell Hauser, and he just became this legend that he would go and pick a person, a place, a thing, something to do with California, and he would do a show, a 1 hour show on it, or a half hour show. But he had just great knack for taking something, interviewing people, and like he would make something insignificant and make it significant. He'd go like, "Wow, is that a leaf?" He's like, you just do these funny things. So either you loved him or hate him. So one day I lived up in Hancock Park in Hollywood, and there's this little street called Larchmont Boulevard, which is sort of like Britannia or Magazine. It was like what I call Main Street, small town USA. It was like, it looked like a little main street of a small town. Well, anyway, one day I ran into Hugh there, and I told him about the Hollywood sign. He goes, "Wow, I sure would like to do a show on that someday. I'll get in touch." I said, "You sure you will?" And he didn't. He did not. But then one day, my wife ran into him on Larchmont herself, and she obviously better looking and more persuasive, because the next thing you know, they were calling and they were putting together the show. So they called, they said, "Okay, I want you to go to this little restaurant that's at the bottom of the hill there on Beechwood." He said, "Go to this little restaurant. I'll have a limousine pick you up, and we'll take you up to the sign, and we'll do the interview there. All right?" And I said, "Hugh, this isn't going to be one of those stings where I get out of the Cadillac and I'm getting arrested." He goes, No, this is hilarious. This is going to be a great show." And so he did. So he ended up doing this show on California Gold, that I'm happy to say that he has since passed, but his show remains on the air, and it gets the Hollywood Sign episode gets played a couple of times a year. Plus, it plays on Armed Forces Radio or TV, Armed Forces TV. Yeah. So there's soldiers all over the world get to see that, because it's just part of their programming. So there's been a few great articles done about it. Recently, I got a call a couple of years ago. I got a call from this producer in New Zealand that worked with Extremes, the Spotify Vice. He worked with Vice, and they had a show called Extreme. And he calls me up, he rings, he goes, "Tell me about the Hollywood Sign." And I do the show. I tell him the story. When I'm done, he goes, "Wow." He goes, I can't do a New Zealand accent, but he goes, "This is the greatest story I've ever heard. We'll get you in a studio here in New Orleans. We'll get in touch with ARAC. We'll interview him, and we'll put together a nice podcast." So they did, and it came out a couple of years ago, and I think that's the one you heard.
Such a great episode. Yeah, I'm going to actually link it underneath ours too, so people can go listen to it if they want to. It's a very condensed version of the story. It's really good. Really good.
Well, thank you. And it's, let all the facts be known. Max, should I say ARAC, he is quite inebriated when they're interviewing him. So you can tell.
He sounded a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
He's having a good time.
Yeah, okay.
He sounds like he's always had a good time.
Yeah, he always has. He was, great songwriter and great friend. And so we just went our separate ways, and, he went off to do some music, and now he's out in Alabama or somewhere. And over the years, what happened is I got the wife, the kids, the picket fence, all that stuff. And then one day I told my wife, I said, marriage is, let's just call it quits. This thing's, off the rails. But let's just be friends about it. Let's do this thing the right way. Instead of, there are these, I've talked to divorce lawyers. They say, man, do it the right way, because you could spend $25,000 fighting over a potted plant, and people do. And thankfully, my wife, I love her dearly. We had an amicable, friendly divorce, and so I started coming back to New Orleans, in these little trips. I started making these 3-week trips looking for a place, and along the way, I was taught in my program of my recovery to be of service to people. And Frank, remember Frank? Mm-hmm. Frank had since passed away. He had got some kind of cancer or something after Katrina, and he passed away. It was sad and tragic. But along the way, I was like communicating with his ex-wife, and I said, hey, I'm coming into New Orleans looking for a house, and I'd love to meet you. I never met her. I'd love to meet you and your daughter and your granddaughter. I'll take you guys out for dinner, just to say hi. And, I love Frank and just get to know you. So I come to New Orleans. I knock on this door, and, it's like crazy. I just went bonkers. Love, or infatuation. I don't know what you call it, but I just had this crazy, love affair with this great woman that it didn't last long, but it made for good material. And so that just a little side note of I just started making these trips, coming to New Orleans, and I find a place, a beater, a dump, and I just started coming back and forth, make these 3-week trips, work on this house, put a new roof on, put in new windows, just do all this stuff to renovate it. And after a year and a half of these trips, I finally, in the middle of the plague of July of 2020, I hitched up my little U-Haul, got me 3 cans of yerba mate and a thermos of coffee, and just drove across America and landed here in New Orleans. Got here and said, okay, I'm here. I'm a single man, and I want to play some music. So I started this little journey, going, hey, where are there open mics? I didn't even know many musicians around town. So I just started playing open mics with the intent and the discipline of playing everyone that I knew existed. If I could make it, I'd go. Even if I didn't want to go, or if I didn't, I just made it. So the next thing I know, I was playing 3, 4, 5 times a week, sometimes 2 or 3 times a night, playing all these open mics all over New Orleans. And there's plenty of them. So I encourage anybody that likes to play music and just wants to tinker or, try out a song or something, do the open mics and, stay within your limits. Don't try to play something that's beyond your capability, because that's a little embarrassing, but play what you do know and play it well, and you'll have a great time. Mm-hmm. So I've been doing that. And that's how I ran into the core of Jedi Mind Trick at the Spotlight on Wednesdays. I would play at the Poorhouse with Ron and Tina. They would host the Thursday nights. They don't do that. They'll start at the Rockin' Bowl in December on Wednesday nights. There's also, let's see, I played Sweet Lorraine's? I think it's Sweet Lorraine's in St. Claude in the 9th Ward. Last Thursday, I did a 3-banger. Sweet Lorraine's, then Domino, and then BJ's. All 3 are great places to play. At Sweet Lorraine, that's like a black jazz club, and played Spike Lee. He happened to be there that night, so that was fun, interesting. And BJ's fantastic. They got a piano in that bar, so it's part of their open mic. So I think every club that has open mics should have a piano, just to stand up right there, ready to mic up, because that adds so much texture to music. It adds a whole dynamic that you don't find. But out of these open mics, you never know who and what's going to show up.
Absolutely.
One night at the Neutral Ground. This is the Neutral Ground after the original, the one that's was on Daniel. I'm about to play there, and I see this girl open the trunk and take this gigantic thing out of her trunk. It's like this big, massive thing. It's got this really weird shape. I go, what the hell is that? It's like, it looked like she was rolling in a big sofa or something, like a sofa chair. And she rolls it in, opens it up, and it's a giant harp. I was great. She starts playing. Turns out she just got into town. So we did a really fun version of Hallelujah. That was great. With the harp, it's just such a beautiful song. Once I've run into some horn players that will add to music. Now, I know myself. I'm very much into the crafted songs, like a pop song, a beginning, a middle, and end. I'm not much of a jammer, so there are some places here, like D-Max has a day over I forget Galvez, wherever they are, they have an open jam, and that's where there's a house drummer, house guitar player sort of runs the thing, and people step up and jam with them for these really long songs. What I love about open mics, as Ron Hotstream puts it, it's the best description. He goes 3 songs or 15 minutes, but not 3 15-minute songs. Hallelujah. Yeah. Thank you. Call the governor. Thank you.
Yeah, we have the same issue here. Shameless plug, open mics here on Thursdays. Yeah, sometimes we have musicians that come in and want to play the longest songs, and it's like, let everyone else have a turn, you know?
Yeah.
You can go up again after we're done with the rotation.
Well, I missed church today, but Patrick Carr, Father Carr at St. Rita's, they say if you're going to speak for hours, you can prepare in minutes. But if you're going to speak for minutes, you have to prepare for hours. And man, does that priest, he works his sermons, because his sermons are about, I'm going to say 3 sentences, maybe 4. I mean, they're very concise, which makes church going very great, because when it relates to music to me big time. Mm-hmm. If you're going to play a lead, say something. Don't blabber, say something concise, but don't blather on and on, because then it gets lost. Whatever it is you were saying, it got lost in the beginning, it got lost in the middle, in the end, and now it's just some endless stream of notes.
You're just hearing yourself at that point.
Yeah.
You're playing for yourself at that point, saying whatever you want to say for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. You, bro. So like some of the knowledge nuggets that you've dropped in that other podcast, I want to talk about that once. In the podcast, you said, dress for the part whenever you're doing the show. Mm-hmm. And this is something that like resonated with me hardcore, because have always been the guy that's just like, you know what, fuck it, I don't care, I'm going to wear whatever I want to whenever I go up there.
That's right. But
it makes sense what you were saying, because you said those people paid for the experience, so I need to show up and give them the experience they paid for.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's something that a lot of young people should take note of.
Yeah. And another one is, believe it or not, practice.
Oh yeah. No, it's a huge one.
I remember my daughter one day in California, she said, Dad, I'm going to go see this band. Some friends of mine. I'm going, really? What's their called? They go, they don't have a name. I go, really? I say, well, what kind of music? They say, they just kind of put it together. I say, well, how often do they practice? They don't practice, Dad. I said, okay. Well, that's, I don't know what that is. Art,
How bad was it?
Art with the F missing.
Yeah. How bad was it?
Yeah. Yeah. So practice. So you start in the beginning, you start at the same time, you end at the same time, and you don't get too busy in between. And that seems to be, I guess that's my MO. Maybe because I'm not a really prolific player. I'm not a Frank Zappa. I love the way Frank Zappa put it. He said, I'm kind of paraphrasing. He goes, I have a very good working knowledge of my guitar. And with that, I take a song, and with that working knowledge, I just express myself however way I feel during that song. Okay, that's coming from a master that knows all the scales and and play what I call the fleas. That's he could do that. But me, I'm so simple. I got to learn my part and just practice at playing that part really well, so that it at least comes off.
Well, you really have to be a master of your craft to be that. Mm-hmm. To be able to just get up there and go crazy. That's why I think some of the people that do these jams, because we have jam sessions here sometimes, and it's so interesting to watch these people because they've never played before in their lives, and how they mesh and make something happen just like that. Like, these are people that really mastered their instrument. I think it's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, I was going to say something about that. Oh, I slipped my mind. So, what else? It's so playing music is just, I whenever I see somebody at these open mics, or if I see somebody there, they look like they're trying hard, or, there's something unique. I encourage them to keep doing it. And I encourage them, saying, don't show up once every 3 months, man. Show up often and regular, and you will get better. Yeah. You absolutely will get better. And that's a payoff, because what great guy here in town, Sean Borg is his last name. He has a very interesting style. I see him at a lot of open mics. So I love his music because it's his own style. It's his own flavor, and he does it. He'll do it solo. I saw him here here last week, I think here, with his band. And that just, that was rocking with a bass player and a drummer. That just, added all the texture, and it was great.
There's a lot of sound for this little place, but yeah, they were really good.
Yeah, so it's a good thing, man. It's just music's good for the soul, and I can't imagine doing anything else right now because it's so much fun that I'm having a great time. And that's another thing. I was somewhere in California or New York, and my son called. He goes, "Dad," this is like the son that just came here to town. He goes, "Dad, I called up the radio station, asked them to play something off the record, and they did." I go, "I love this town." Well, the WTUL plays cuts off of Eep Snorpsh Now because, like I said, Big Brother, Joanna. Big Brother has to do with 1984. Joanna has everything to do with AI. That's straight off the Stepford Wives. And Dirty Little Slivers, everything relatable to those terrorist attacks in Israel. So it's funny how things they just make full circle.
It's scary, is what it is.
Yeah, it's kind of scary.
Is it ever going to stop, or is it just going to keep the cycle just going to continue?
I don't know, man. But sometimes I think aliens, if they're zipping by the Earth, I think they say just keep going, man. Put some police tape around this thing. It's a mess. But we're supposed to get better, man. So hopefully we do get better.
So do you got plans to record some new music, or are you playing the old stuff still?
Yeah.
Or
Play old stuff. Working on a song. There's another guy here in town, Ian. I'm trying to think of his last name. Really great guy. Ian, he's just got the guy. He's great. He just got full of heart, and he comes out and plays these different open mics. I've been seeing a lot of him lately. And he just plays from the heart, and it's got some really interesting stuff. And he just one day we were texting, and we were talking about something, songs and something, talking about girls or something. It's a good subject, right? And I mentioned this Ukrainian girl that I knew in Los Angeles, that she's just a great gal, and party favors, the booze and party favors just took her down. And it was so tragic. And I was just telling him the story. He goes, "Dude, you got to write a song about that." And I said, "You're right." And so I'm working on one that. So songwriting can be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It could be really taxing. That's what I mentioned about Frank. This is what, so Frank Asunto, I would see him, we would party, we were friends for a long time. And, I'd go to his house and we'd sit around, smoke cigarettes, smoke the devil's cabbage. And he would just spontaneously write music. And I never saw somebody that was so prolific, that's so easy to write songs. For me, it was very difficult. I just had to sit down and, put the pen and the paper, and I had to really squeeze it out of me hard. Mm-hmm. I think I heard Randy Newman has the same thing. He has to lock himself down up in his basement to do the same thing. So I'm not surprised. For some people, it's easy. Some people, it becomes harder. It don't matter, just as long as you bang something out and just try to do a good job at it.
Yeah. Any advice for young musicians that are going at it right now? Yeah.
Practice. Oh, I know what I was going to mention. Years ago, I forget what decade it was, but there was a book that was making the rounds. It had something to do with people that were successful at what they did. Mm-hmm. And they used Bill Gates, they used some hockey players, maybe some basketball. They used some people that we would know as successful. And the key to all of what they talked about was 10,000 hours. Mm-hmm. 10,000 hours. He said, while Jimi Hendrix probably practiced 10,000 hours. Bill Gates, while everyone else was partying, he was up in there in Richmond in some college. He was in the lab working on his computers. He was putting in the time. Now, I have never put 10,000 hours on my guitar, so I don't know if I'll ever achieve that kind of greatness. But I do know that you see the people the great hockey players. Why were they successful? I think they said because they were born in July and August. Because if they were born in July and August, they were almost a year older than all the other kids by the time they were at the age to enter school. So they were a little bigger, a little bit stronger, and so those guys across the board turned out to be the better hockey players because they got more time in. Mm. So yeah, if you want to get better at something, you got to practice.
Put in the reps.
Yeah.
Put in the reps, man.
Yeah, muscle memory. It's just it could be a pain in the ass, and it's like sometimes you don't want to do it. Sometimes I tell you, sometimes I don't want to go out and do an open mic, and every time that happens, it turns out to be one of the better ones.
Yeah, I mean, it's always you don't want to go there, but once you actually get there and get in the moment, it's like, oh, this is I came here for a reason. This is what I do.
What did Pete Townsend say? I think he said it best. The guy from The Who, he said, you go out and you do a show, you never know. You never know if when you walk up and do that show, if it's going to be the best performance of your life or the worst. You never know. So you just got to do it. So I encourage, anybody out there that's tinkering and plinkering and, making some kind of music, try to craft it, try to hone it down, and then go practice it with, in front of people and see how they react. If they react really good, great. If they don't react really good, that's great too. Just keep practicing.
Tommy Sanchez, everyone.
Yeah.
Do you want to play a few songs for us?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. We'll cut right here and we'll set it up for the music. Thank you for coming in today, man.
You bet. Thank you. Okay, so here's an unplugged version of Big Brother, as I was talking about, 1984. George Orwell. Boy, did he have it pegged. Lenses around every door, around every corner and under every floor, and I just can't take anymore. Think I'll grab a pipe and smash it. Ooh, down, Big Brother is watching. Ooh, down, Big Brother is watching you. And what they do, they know yourself more than you know you. And have they nothing better to do? I think I'll grab a pipe and smash it. Guitar ride. Grab a pipe and smash it. Ooh, down, Big Brother is watching. Cool down, Big Brother is watching you. Cool down, Big Brother is watching. Cool down, Big Brother is watching. They give you a number, it's not really you. You're taken for granted just like a snail in the zoo. And if you complain, you disappear in the blue. I think I'll grab a pipe and smash it. You speak. War is peace. Freedom is slavery. All right.
Dude, that's an interesting song for sure.
It's pretty pertinent.
It's pretty spot on.
You know, canceling people out, you know, government watching everything, surveillance everywhere you go.
Well, the Snowden documentary that came out a few years ago. You see
Shocking.
that? Yeah.
Shocking.
So, I mean, you're spot on with that song. It's crazy that you wrote it back then.
Yep. Just that, read the book. I just read it again, finished it on the plane. Matter of fact, now whenever I play, if I can remember to bring the book, I offer it to all these poor students that are so, thousands of dollars in student loan debt. I will give them a way to pay back. I'll sell them a copy of 1984 for $10. In 3 weeks, they bring it back to me. I'll give them 20, so they can make money educating themselves. Because a lot of people haven't read that book.
It's crazy. They should all read it. Everyone should read it.
Yeah.
Newspeak's a huge thing, like you were talking about.
Yeah.
Most
Newspeak,
people don't know what
black
that
is white, good is bad. It's like crazy, crazy. And it seems like it's mainstream. Like, what's going on? What are these, Okay. Okay, how about Joanna? So 1974, 75. I'm at my little Raffey World headquarters. I'm just watching the Stepford Wives, the original version. The later version is unwatchable shite. Not even shouldn't even be on. It shouldn't even been released. But anyway, the original version, as it closes out, the premise is this woman. What's her name? Joanna Eberhardt, and her husband and their 2 kids. They leave Manhattan. They move to a little town in Connecticut, and something strange going on. First, the town is the industry is all kind of high tech. There's robotics, there's data, there's computers. It's a strange mixture of all these technologies. And Joanna, she starts noticing that all the wives there, they seem kind of strange. They're all dressed really nice. They got their big sun hats on, wearing high heels while they're shopping. It's like crazy. And as it turns out, the men are bringing their families there. They start, photographing, taking, every photo of their wife. They record her voice. They do everything. And at the proper time, they off the original wife, the new version, a little shapelier, certainly very compliant, because she does everything that, the perfect wife would do. Joanna. Recording? Oh, let me try again. the perfect wife. Yeah, I think I played that here.
You might have, yeah. Yes. I freaking love it. It's great.
Yeah. Very, very pertinent to AI.
Yeah.
Totally pertinent to AI.
I think the women would fight back on that one though, right?
Well, then let that be a wake-up call.
Right.
Gals, step up your game, man. You already got, they're the gal. What happened to the feminists? How is it that guys are taking over women's sports? What the F? People,
insane.
It is insane. And it's only insane because we allow it to be insane. So I'm not saying, rebel against it. Just laugh, laugh these people into, getting back on track. Because there's some kind of sickness there that, I don't care about person's sexuality. What you do in four walls is your own business. But to go out there and tout it and expect me to go along with that, that facade, that's kind of cuckoo.
Well, this is once again what I was saying is I don't think a lot of people have the balls that you have because there are a lot of people that aren't they're not saying these things, and you're sitting on the mic right now saying it. Like this is what more people should do. Is stand up and say it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I applaud you for saying it.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Another one?
Yeah, one more.
Okay. So this one will be this one got recorded, but it's not on a record, and it's I do several different versions of it, but I'll do my acoustic version. It's called Teardrop, and it's about loss. That icky feeling you get when you lose something, person, thing. So it goes like this. Let's see if I got it right here. Long gone away.
Tommy, any last words for the people?
Man, just go out there and have fun. Support local music. That's important. And I noticed that after the plague, a lot of people stayed home. Maybe they were getting checks, and they just decided to stay home. And that's not good for anything. Life is short. Get out there and smell the roses. Find some music that and go find some music. I have the best times going out and looking for bands, because I'm looking for that young band that these guys are sitting in a garage somewhere making some sounds, and it's interesting and it's different. And man, I can't wait to find something like that to support it, because you need that. You need it. That's it.